What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, Oleksandr Usyk versus Anthony Joshua 2 largely went the same way as the first fight. Anthony had him in some trouble in that 9th round, but Usyk responded beautifully in the 10th, and I think pretty much outclassed him throughout the entire fight. I'm a bit surprised at the split decision. I think it should have been unanimous, but ultimately I think the right guy got his hand raised.
Yeah, I think it was a good fight, good heavyweight matchup over there in Saudi Arabia, not Dubai. And it was a great day full of fights. You know, it started out with the boxing. Joshua, anytime he's on there, people are going to tune in because he's such a star. And Usyk has really come on lately, being known as Lomachenko's teammate and kind of looking like the heavyweight version of Lomachenko, moves very different than most heavyweights. So we were all kind of intrigued going into that fight, even though we'd seen it once before and we kind of knew what the outcome was likely going to be. And I just think Usyk fought a really smart fight. He came across, he wasn't afraid of Joshua, which is kind of crazy when you go against somebody who's so much larger than you, both range-wise and just size and weight-wise. For him to just walk him down and seem like he was the aggressor for the entire fight was pretty impressive. Joshua had his moments in the rounds and some of the fights, and I think he actually did win some of the rounds, especially that one late, is 9th round or 10th round?
Yeah, the 9th round was his round for sure.
Yeah. So he did look good. I think he improved a lot from the first time they fought. All in all, Usyk's just a better fighter. The better man got his hand raised, and they didn't make it boring, but he definitely did what he had to do to get his hand raised.
For sure. He did what he had to do against what exactly you said is a fighter who's much bigger, much stronger, more powerful, and rangier, which is that you need to outbox them and create your angles and utilize the footwork to get the shots off that you need. Usyk is a southpaw, so he did a great job of playing that game where you keep your front leg on the outside of their front leg, and you're always at a more advantageous angle to land shots on them than they are on you. He had some good hooks over the top, followed up by nice straight punches, and then got himself out of danger most of the time. You know, Joshua did have his moments where he landed some big shots, and I thought Usyk really was badly hurt in that 9th round, which I think is a testament to his heart because he came back and dominated the 10th round. The 10th round was possibly the most dominant round of the fight, and it happened after Usyk was dominated by Joshua in the 9th, which I think is worth noting.
Yeah, he sort of stole the fight back with that round. So he's like, okay, 9th round clearly went to Joshua. I got to go take a round just as dominant as he just had. And it looked really impressive when you watched Usyk kind of overcome that adversity against a guy that probably could have finished the fight. If Joshua had a little bit more energy, a little bit more gas in the tank, he would have been able to push on the gas and just really unload on him, make it look like, you know, we talk about it all the time, make it look like it's just getting bad, getting dangerous, and the ref has to step in and do his job. But Usyk was able to evade as much as possible, keep his hands up, take the brunt of those shots on his arms and on his gloves, and was able to recover basically for half of that round and then the full minute in the corner. I don't know. I think that Usyk showed us all kinds of wrinkles in his game. And when you want to talk about the X's and O's of this fight, a couple of things that stuck out to me was Usyk's ability to slip off of punches that he knew were going to come, right? So we always talk about counterpunching, and everybody thinks that it's reacting to what's being thrown in that time, having superhuman reaction times and scoring right then. And while you do have to be able to react fast, you have to be able to read what the situation is presenting to you. What he does best is he knows that he can throw something and then make Joshua throw a certain thing back at him. So likely in fighting, if you throw a jab at somebody, they're going to throw a jab back at you to sort of even out the playing field. And what he did was he noticed that every time he would throw some offense, Joshua would start back with a traditional jab or two to kind of get his offense going. And he would slip mostly to the outside, but occasionally he would slip to the inside into the danger zone, going right towards that power hand of Joshua and then scoring on the inside, which is very difficult to do, very scary to do. You kind of have to have cold blood to slip into the inside of a powerful heavyweight's punches. But he was all calculated. He did it at the right times and was able to score some of his biggest punches of the night in that situation. And my biggest issue with Joshua's game plan going into the fight was I don't think that he does enough while moving backwards and while being on the defensive. While somebody's attacking him, he tends to just shell up. He doesn't put anything in their face. He puts no obstacles in front of them for them to deal with. And I think that could really set him back in the future fights that he has, and everybody else that's in the heavyweight division. When they come at him, if he just shells up, they're going to look like they're kind of getting off on a heavy bag rather than an opponent who's got some offense for them as well. So I do think that Joshua did a lot of things right, but I also saw a lot of things he did wrong, and Usyk looked about as good as you could look at against a heavyweight.
That's a great synopsis, and I think you're absolutely right with regards to the shortcomings in Joshua's game, which kind of does beg the question because he's at a point right now, it's a very unique spot that not many boxers are in. He may be the only boxer, in fact, that's in this current position, which is his star power is far bigger than his real abilities are. And it seems that when he gets in there with the real elites, he was kind of, I don't want to say protected in the early part of his career because he fought some very good fighters, but now he's fighting the best of the best. The Ring Magazine belts are on the line, and he's up against the top 2 or 3 guys in the world, and he's demonstrating that he's not quite to that level. He's physically there, but his skill is actually not there where these guys' skill is. And you look at somebody like Usyk, who's extremely technically proficient, and compare that to somebody like a Tyson Fury, who's just as technically proficient, if not more, and he's 6'9" and 300 pounds or whatever he is. And so you're like, okay, well, if he fought Tyson, that's really not going to go his way. But then we also saw him get put on the ground by Andy Ruiz Jr. multiple times, and so that kind of makes you think, well, if he gets in there with Deontay Wilder, who hits a lot harder than Ruiz Jr. does, that's probably not going to go his way. Usyk's got his number. Where does Joshua really go from here? Because it seems like he's in a bit of a precarious position.
Yeah, he's a superstar, and there's no easy fights left in boxing for him. If I were him, I would look to try to exercise some of these super fights. All of the MMA guys that want to make some big paydays and try to go get their name in the boxing world would take the bait on a fight with Joshua in a heartbeat. I'm talking Francis Ngannou's. I'm talking the Derek Lewis's. I'm talking Tai Tuivasa. If you could get your hands on one of those guys, I really do think that the people would be willing to watch it. They'd be willing to part with their money to see it happen. And you'd have a high-level boxer, one of the top 5 best heavyweights on the planet right now, going against a power puncher who's got nothing to lose and is going to go try to bring the fight to somebody like that. I think obviously the fight would take place in a boxing ring because I don't see Anthony Joshua moving over to MMA or any sort of bare knuckle or any sort of strange, rule set.
One-off scenario like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that would lead him to some big paydays that he could likely win and get back on track. But at the same time, the boxing purists would probably criticize him for that. And so he's kind of in this island of no man's land. Like, I can't really compete with the top heavyweights that are out there. And, those 2 guys, Tyson Fury and Usyk, will probably have their own business to deal with if they are going to continue fighting. And then me and Deontay Wilder, maybe we can get something going on that people would probably be interested in. But if not that, then I think he needs to go with these super fights. He needs to go with somebody that's not one of the top 5 heavyweights in the world in boxing and maybe just try to go with these entertaining fights.
I think so. I mean, something like that would be interesting, and the boxing purists, as you say, would probably be up in arms over that. But the reality is a lot of boxers are looking to things like crossover fights and stuff like that to really help build their star and build the sport. And Anthony Joshua certainly would have people lined up to fight him if he was open to something like that. I see the Deontay Wilder fight as being an option. Deontay's coming back. He's got a fight coming up. I'm drawing a blank on the opponent's name, but it's not somebody in the top 10. It's somebody Deontay should deal with. This is kind of a tune-up fight, if you will, for a great fighter trying to get his career back on track. So presumably he wins that fight. Why not make AJ versus Deontay for a title eliminator? If Fury and Usyk get their business on, or if they both retire, then you just put a belt up on the line and make things happen and carry on with the division. The other option would be a trilogy with Andy Ruiz Jr. I don't think a lot of people are talking about that, but that second fight was very close and he got finished the first time. So why not try to go and break that tie there and get the better of the trilogy against Ruiz Jr.? I think that's an option as well. But any way you slice it, he's got no easy fights because he's such a big name that you can't just throw him in there with nobody. So it's going to be really interesting to see where his career goes from here.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I think he's going to take some time, decompress a little bit. He did have a little bit of a temper tantrum or a hissy fit, what seemed like in the post-fight ring gathering that
he
they
tried
do
to
in
save
boxing.
it, but it was already, the damage was kind of already done, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's so weird how the boxers or the fighters are in charge at a boxing event.
Yeah.
You know, you never see some fighter in the UFC grab the microphone and go on a 5-minute rant about his past and why he's not as good as some of the guys that started before him and all that stuff. It's very strange.
Zoom in on the grip Joe Rogan has on that microphone in a post-fight interview. Nobody's getting that mic out of his hands.
Exactly. There's questions, and then the people get to answer the questions that win the fight. So I think that was a little bit weird. I think he did save his face a little bit by, complimenting Usyk and saying that there are great fighters out there that have been at it for longer than him. But all in all, it was a fun night, a fun afternoon of fighting. I did enjoy the card, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Usyk does next. Hopefully that's Tyson Fury, and I think Anthony Joshua will find himself in another entertaining fight, regardless of who the opponent is.
Well, guys, drop us a comment and let us know, should Tyson Fury fight Oleksandr Usyk next, and what should happen with Anthony Joshua? If you're new here, we talk all things combat sports. We appreciate a subscribe to the channel and a like on this video. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace.